Yes. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. One of the most praised games in the entire franchise. Yeah, everyone has been saying this game is one of the best Kirby games of all time. So now I decided to play it for once, and see if it's actually overhyped or not. And I beat the main story, so time to sort of review this game. Sort of like this Mario Golf video I did, so I'm going to be doing this in different categories, and that's really about it, so let's get started. Let's start off with gameplay, which for the first 3D Kirby game is amazing. Everything feels fresh, no bullshit controls, very rare frame drops. It's really the same as the other Kirby games, but I find this game to have the smoothest gameplay out of the 4 I've played. Big positive. Next up, visuals and theming, which look very nice, and there isn't really any odd textures I saw. The visuals also do a perfect job of fitting into the theme of a post-apocalyptic civilization. Even for the two worlds that don't really fit, Winter Hordes and Everbay Coast, they still look nice. Even the bosses fit, with the Wild Edge, Bonkers, Frosty, and King Dedede being redesigned to fit the theme very well. Obviously, it's not Elden Ring type visuals, but it's a Kirby game. And Forgotten Land does a really good job of fitting into most of the series. Even then, the visuals definitely set themselves apart because of the Switch being more powerful console, and because the game is 3D. Another big positive. Next up, difficulty, which I found very fair. There's two modes to play in, Spring Breeze and Wild. They advertise Wild as hard mode, but it's really just normal mode. I don't really know the difference, but it's nice that they give new players more of a chance to learn the game, and then they can eventually switch to Wild, because you can switch the modes at any time. I also found the overall curve of difficulty near to perfect. Sometimes I find previous bosses or levels harder. For example, I found Coraline to be the hardest boss out of the first 4 worlds, but she's in the 3rd world, and Dedede isn't far behind her in the 4th world. The 4 mini-bosses also had some challenge, with Flu Arena being the hardest in my opinion. I feel the levels get harder as I play on, and they really nailed it without me realizing until I beat the game. All the most difficult bosses for me were at the ending part of the game, being Silly Dillo and the final boss, both making me punch the shit out of my pillow because of how much I died. Overall, really good balancing. Now it's time to replot the entire plot from the game, and then I'll talk at the end. So obviously spoilers, so go play the game if you haven't already. This game's actually really good. One day, Kirby and his friends get stuck into a rift from another world. Kirby wakes up, traverses his surroundings, and also discovers he's able to do something called a mouthful. I'll discuss them soon. Kirby then finds this blue guy, trapped in, so he saved the blue guy, whose name is Elfilin. No clue how to say that, so I'll just call him Elf for short. We set up a nice little town again, more on that soon. And now Kirby and Elf traverse through all the different worlds, saving Waddle Dees and defeating bosses. Nothing of relevance happening until the fight at the end of Winter Horns versus King Dedede. The fight itself is fun, but once you beat Dedede, he becomes a sore loser and kidnaps Elf, and he flees away to another island. Kirby treks on alone through 2 worlds, and then he's finally able to come face to face with Dedede again, at the final level of the game. Kirby defeats him, and then he comes to his senses, but Elf is nowhere to be seen. We try to escape a wild pack of enemies and through this elevator shaft thing, but Waddle Dee tripped, so Dedede decided to chuck the Waddle Dee to Kirby and stay behind and fend off the pack himself. Legend. As we ride through the shaft in Lab Discoverer, we learn a lot of stuff. There was this invasive specimen that was going to end the world soon, but the researchers at Lab Discoverer got it contained before it did anything too bad. The researchers studied it and managed to build a planet warp system until an incident occurred which part of the species was separated, and the researchers were never able to find the subspecimen. Ever since the incident, the main specimen has been resting. At the top of Lab Discoverer, this guy named Leongar talks about how the Great One, referring to the main specimen, gave the old civilization planet warp powers, and the rest of the land had been abandoned since. Leongar wants the power now because Elf is the subspecimen, so after Kirby took him down because, he got pissed, Elf got saved, but Leongar somehow fused with the main specimen, aka the Great One. So Kirby kills that abomination, but only Leongar is dead. The main specimen kidnaps Elf and they fuse, creating the ultimate being. So Kirby casually fights it and frees L from the main specimen, but it's not done yet. The Great One splits open a rift and sends Planet Popstar colliding into the world. So Kirby does the only sensible thing and becomes an 8-wheeler and kills the main specimen by running it over. Yeah, that makes sense. But oh no, the collision's still gonna happen. So L sacrifices himself at the end of the collision and saves both worlds. But he later pops out of the rift, proving that he's alive and really just defeats the entire purpose of emotional sadness. Yeah, I was sad for like 5 seconds until that happened. So, that's the end of the main story. There's a post-game, but I'm too lazy to do that. As I said earlier, the final boss kicked my ass, so yeah. Anyways, I think this plot's pretty nice in general. I would be more mad at the fact that it just randomly picks up at Winter Horns if it wasn't for me being a fucking Pokemon fan. And usually, the plot just randomly kicks in randomly. And same thing with me playing Mario Golf Story Mode. It just randomly got interesting. But I think Far Down the Lid did do it okay, I guess, by making the climax the very last level of the main story. Still not a fan of it shoving all the lore at you out of nowhere, but it's still okay. That's my only negative thing to say about the plot, and not too much of it. It's not a huge problem for me, so it's still pretty good. Now it's actually time to talk about this game's additional content. First up, Mouthful Mode. It's really freaking stupid and I love it. All the different mouthfuls create their own unique and cool puzzles to solve and have their own spin. Overall, really fun and cool feature. Waddle Dee Town is also cool. You get to see it grow as you progress, and it's really sweet. Evolving abilities is sick as hell. I'm so happy they added this. All of them besides like Clutter Needle are cool and really help the specific ability. Sure, it makes the game easier, but you can't tell me Dragon Fire isn't the sickest Kirby ability of all time. All the mini-games are really fun and silly. The Coliseum is a challenge for more experienced players in this game, and that's really it for Waddle Dee Town. Overall, really nice charm in this. I'm happy they added. There's also new abilities in general, Ranger and Drill. They're both really cool, but there is a lack of abilities in general, but my guess is because of the Mouthful mode, which makes sense. Treasure Roads are nice little mini-games to help you evolve your abilities, and I really like them because there's only really 2 hard ones. You don't have to work too hard for it, and it helps you improve your ability skills. My hardest being the Dragonfire one and the Carmouth one in the final world. But that's all I could really think of for huge new content, and there's still probably some I'm missing. And there's definitely a lot of new content, so huge positive. You get your money's worth for this game, I believe. And that concludes all of our categories. Time for some closing thoughts. Overall, I thought this game was amazing. I don't really have a problem besides the shit ton of plot just being chucked at you at the end. I haven't really played the post-game yet, and I bet it's really good. Something it couldn't fit anywhere was complimenting the music, so here we are. I really like the music. My favorite track being Through the Firely Forbidden Lands. I found this game just super fun and silly, and that's what's special about Kirby. And I definitely understand the hype. So, is this game overhyped? Hell no. This goes back and forth with Planet Robobot for my favorite game in the series, even though I've only played 4. My score for this game is gonna be a 9 out of 10. So with that, that's the end. Thanks for watching. Peace.